awesome, because in a few days it won't be like this, and it'll be awesome as well, because it'll be dry and hot and the ground will be hard as a rock and all that. So we live on some I say a farm. We got some farm animals, but we live on a farm, and if you get off the driveway right now, you sink. And it's good to have everybody here. Of course, we don't have everybody, but we're glad you are here. And the opportunity for me to be here is just amazing. I'm so thankful to have all of you here. So we're going to go right into a Bible study. And today is a little different in the sense that, well, let me just get started. Proverbs 14 and 12. Today will be a little different. The part 2 is going to be better than part 1, I think. And it's good to have all of our guests here, and people will be coming in, I'm sure, as the day goes by, and we're going to have a great day. So Proverbs 14 and 12, there is a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. So a while back, I wrote a note to myself that there is really only one problem in our world, and that is sin. Sin. And it's all about a battle. In fact, I would just go ahead and throw this out there. It's really about a battle between good and evil. It's all there is to it. There's not any. You can divide it up into this problem or that problem, but really it's all a battle between good and evil. And I'll explain that a little bit more in a minute. But God, as you know, God creates and Satan destroys. One brings peace. God brings peace, and Satan, honestly and sincerely, and some of us have experienced this, brings destruction and confusion. And that's just the way it is. And if we're not careful, we're not going to see the big picture. We're going to see little things. And so we look around us right now, and there are a lot of issues in our culture, in our world. I have a list. I won't get to it right now, but it's a lengthy list, and I don't name everything. I just name a few things. But a lot of people, though, they look around at all these issues as if they're individual, different issues. They see this issue or that issue. And unfortunately, that mindset is part of the problem that we're dealing with. Because all these different problems are actually just one problem. Those problems that we see are actually just symptoms of the problem. And so we've got to remember this. And the reason why I say this is important and the reason why I want you to grasp this is because if we don't see the big problem and recognize the various symptoms of the big problem, we can become so overwhelmed to where we don't know what to do. We're fearful, we're scared, we're worried about everything. But when we get a grasp on what in economics is called the macro, when we get a grasp on the macro issues and recognize the symptoms, then we can recognize there's one thing that we have to tackle. There's just one thing that we have to tackle. Now, I'm talking to adult Bible study, and I wanted to put this in fact, I tried to put it in a PowerPoint, but I couldn't get it together. So yesterday was Mother's Day part 1, today's part 2, tomorrow's part 3, I think. But we must grasp honestly the idea, if you will, that all of these issues that we see around us are simply symptoms of the one problem. Okay? So we're adults. Let's recognize that, because if you see these symptoms in the school system, in the hospital system, in the medical care, in the legal system, in the political system, again, we can become... have you ever seen these people that get worked up about one issue and they go to picket? Well, that wasn't fair, so I'm going to go picket because of that unfair... they treated her wrong or him wrong, and so we're going to go and picket. Well, they don't... Unfortunately, you're not going to fix it. I'd like to say we'd fix it, but you're not going to fix it, because fixing it means you have to go back and to the root of the problem, which is sin. So again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but we need to be careful that we grasp the big picture. So the world is changing rapidly, and so let's look at some of the problems. I've got literally a long list here, and I'll name a few, and I'm sure that you can name some too. Pedophilia. This is things that we're no children in this place here. This is all adults. So these are things that I'm not trying to say that you're living under a rock, but if you're not paying attention, these things are being debated on a public platform as we speak to legitimize them, to legalize them. Now, do y'all think that's weird? Is that sick? Yeah. Pedophilia, euthanasia, racism obviously has always been around. Gender confusion, that's something that we've been dealing with. In fact, day before yesterday, I went to go, we moved into our little barn dominium a couple of months ago, and we're still moving, and we're moved in. We set our bed up. We're still moving in, but I went to burn some old box of legal papers, and I saw a newspaper in there, and I'm thinking, what is that in there for? And I pulled it out, and it was from Camille's graduation, and it talked about her class graduating, and I opened it up to read part 2, and in there was an article about gender confusion, if you will. I don't remember the exact term they used and everything, but it was like that we were dealing with it back then, but now it's more prominent. Okay, so I'm saying all these things in the forum of an adult Bible class because we need to recognize what's going on. We can't, if we don't recognize it, what we're doing, if we don't recognize it as adults, what we're doing is we're throwing our children into the fire, so to speak, with no awareness. When I was a kid, my mom and dad used to say, told me how to act in public, told me how not to act, told me where I could go, where not to go. And I think all those barriers have been pulled down, dropped, if you will. And now, and if we're not careful, we won't even care because all the barriers are already down. It don't matter. You can get anything you want on the internet, anything you want. And I see people use the internet as a babysitter all the time. So anyway, I'm sorry. Gender confusion, abortion's been a long time. Gay marriage, and that's, just think just for a moment. Gay and marriage don't go together. Marriage is a holy oracle from God. It's a symbolic, a shadow of the marriage between God and the church. Anyway, I'm going too deep. Inflation, of course, is a problem. Broken homes, political corruption, demoralizing imaginations, perverse entertainment, unfettered access to that entertainment, totally unfettered. I said this last week, and I saw a young man, I'm guessing about 14, 15 years old, and he was showing me something on his phone. It's a few weeks ago, I can't remember now what it was, but he showed it to me, and he turned his phone around, and he turned his phone around. I got a text, let me get back to you. He turned his phone around, and on the bottom of it, it was an ad, and it was a little game or something. I can't remember what he's playing or showing me, and the ad said, "Are you gay? Am I gay? Am I gay?" And it had the rainbow flag on each side, and so take this quiz. And we as adults go, "Hey, son, here you go. Y'all have fun. Just don't bother me." Oh my word! I'm like, ah! Oh my goodness! It goes on. The ideologically motivated news media drives me crazy. Drives me crazy. And that don't even include theft and murder and lying and cheating and stuff like that. I mean, it's just crazy how we are. These are all symptoms, though, of the root problem. It's as if we are inside, and this is my imagination, so I'm going to try to use this in the right way. I was praying about it actually, and this come to my mind. It's as if we are inside a home that, there's been a kitchen fire, so to speak, and it's spread to the whole house, and we're in the kitchen trying to put out the little fire that's over by the refrigerator, It's like, look, the whole house is on fire. You're not realizing the extent of the situation. Now, I know you didn't come to church to be beat up or whatever, so leave depressed. But But Paul told us in Romans 7 and 18, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, in the flesh, there's no good thing. And he said that. In our flesh, there's no good thing. And so what we have to recognize is, in the sense of the world, in the sense of the flesh, in the sense of the carnality of the things that's going on in our world, I'm going to tell you that it's not going to get better. In fact, all these things, just these symptoms that we're seeing are truly prophesied. I'll get more into this as the day goes by, but it's not that sin, it's not, that sin or that sin or that sin. It's sin in general, and it's the era in which we live. Now, I have a captive audience, and so I'm not going to abuse that, but I really have, when I have a desire to be used of God. And the other day I was praying, and I was like, Lord, it's not about me. It's not about me being used or anything like that, but I do want to be used for your glory. And I thought back to that analogy of a tool. I want to be that tool in God's hands. Amen. And sometimes with this microphone and with the perspective that I have, I believe that I can help you more by making you aware of what's going on and helping you prepare your mind and your heart for a future when things aren't normal. Things aren't normal. Right? I mean, is that obvious to you? Things aren't normal. We're not in 1988 anymore, Toto. Or Kansas, thank God. But anyway, as I said a few weeks ago, we live in the same mindset that was seen when the judges of Israel were coming about. Many times during that time period of the judges, in fact, it says it in Judges 21 and 25, when there was no king in Israel. No king in Israel. There was no authority. Think about this. When there was no king in Israel, everyone did what was right in their own eyes. The judges, the prophets, the priests were the authority for that generation. And when there was no authority, everybody did what was right in their own eyes. And guess what we're doing? We've thrown out the authority. And this is where I'm actually going. So what's happened? It's very simple. First of all, after several generations of fighting against God, and I say several generations, it started really coming to bear around the turn of the 19th, 20th century. And I'm not going to get into history, but a lot of the movement that was going on during the roaring 20s of the previous century was about this tearing down of the authority of God. And it was minor, and it was overlooked, and for the most part, humanity, or America especially, had this overwhelming desire to be moral. And so having a spiritual authority was good, but it wasn't as important as a moral authority, which almost everybody had. There was a few, of course. Like I said, the 1920s was bringing it about. But after several generations of fighting against God, we have now come to the point to where we live in what, I'm going to use the word they seem to have succeeded in removing authority. They've removed authority. So, and of course you can look back at more recently Saul Alinsky, prior to him Karl Marx, even during the mid-20th century, the Great Society. What is all that about? Remove responsibility from adults and give it to the government or give it to somebody else. And so you don't have to worry about the responsibility of, oh, oops, did I do that? A big safety net where everybody falls into it and nobody takes responsibility. But then to put the nail in the coffin, or multiple nails, of course, we passed, and some of you remember these things, and I don't have the dates for them, but I did write them down. Roe v. Wade, when they legalized abortion. Stone versus Graham, when they removed the Ten Commandments. Engel versus Vitale, which removed prayer. Oberfell versus Hodges, which legalized gay marriage. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And so what we have done is we have created a society that now we're surrounded by people that are younger than me. And I used to think I was, the young person, but now we're not, and we're adults here, so we've got to recognize we're all getting older. And the younger ones are saying in their mind, they're being taught, there is no authority. You are your only authority. You're the final word of your life. You can do anything, be anything you want to. You can be a dog if you want to. I mean, it's like, what in the world? What is going on? All these symptoms. All this and that, and unfortunately, we're seeing it. And I don't like I said, I don't like disparaging ministry, so to speak. But some ministry needs to be disparaged because we're seeing it in the church as well. We're seeing, and I'm just going to be, I'm going to be very transparent. I am who I am, and hope you like me. But if you don't, I can't help that because I'm not going to try to play games with you. We're seeing ministers break the will of God and staying in the pulpit. Breaking covenants with their first wife and just acting like it never. We're seeing ministers that are full of greed, full of pride, full of every fundamental thing that God stands against. But it's because adults are stupid and gullible. I'm telling you that. And I'm putting myself in that group because we say, oh, but he preaches good. Yeah. Would you rather have a good preacher, or would you rather have a man that did his best to keep the Word of God? You see what I'm saying? We've got a problem, and it's not just that generation that's coming up with I'm a dog today. I'm a boy today. Whatever. That's not the problem. The problem is sin, and we as adults are the ones that kind of are feeding the flames, and maybe fed the flames because of all these laws that were passed in the previous generations are now coming to fruition, and we're going, what's going on? What is second? Let me get it. It's not my notes. What does 2 Timothy 3:16 say? Let me just read it quickly. And I'm not going to belabor the point. This is, you know what? This is the deal. If we could just open our eyes, we would recognize the symptoms for what they are. I'm thinking today. I've got a young family here in the church. Two young families. That one of them has 3 daughters, and they go. It's so crazy. I feel sorry for them. And they're not here today because of this. 3 daughters go to 3 different classes at 3 different schools, and every one of them catches something every week and brings it back. And so one week they get, this sickness and they get over it, and 1 week later, guess what? They got another one, maybe the same sickness, but they keep bringing it back. And so 4 weeks in a row, somebody in the house has been passing this junk around. And it's like, wait, stop. Let's just stop right now. Isolate for a little bit, if you will. 3 days off, nobody goes anywhere. Let's get the house well, and then let's go live life. You see? But if we're not careful, we won't recognize the symptoms, and we'll just keep throwing them at our children, our grandchildren, even our own lives. And by the way, adults today are so full of I want to say bull, but I won't say that. No, I won't say that. We're so full of ourselves. Yes. We give ourselves more permission than we would dream about giving anybody else. Yeah. If we saw, and I don't say that, I'm not trying to imply that everybody's like this, but I know for a fact that there are people that, and I don't want to be legalistic. I'm not trying to be that. I'm not here to control your life. I'm not going to check your bedroom. I'm not going to check what you want. I'm just saying we are not to lie, steal, kill, all that kind of stuff, but we will, or take pleasure in those that do such. But yet we watch a whole lot of that. Now, I'm not saying that we need to be weirdos walking around, in a burqa and all that, but we do need to isolate ourselves somehow from the symptoms, because the symptoms is symptomatic of the disease. And if we give ourselves too much permission, we'll have the disease and not even recognize the symptoms that we have. I'm messed up. 2 Timothy 3. This know also that in the last days, perilous times will come. And it calls it out there. If we can't recognize this, we might, as adults, we might have a problem. And if we have problems, God help the children is all I got to say. Put somebody in their life, somehow. Okay, I'm sorry. For men shall be lovers of their own selves. Let's just read it real quick. Covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God. I don't want to stop there. I'm sorry. Having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, from such turn away. Turn away. Adults, please hear me. Yes, we're seeing the symptoms, but we better recognize the source of the symptoms. This is the day we live. This is the hour we live. This is the sin that we've always dealt with it. This is, these things I just read in 2 Timothy 3, they've always happened. These things individually have always happened. And in almost any society of any size, these things have been a problem. Lust and greed and pride, it's always been a problem. And they lead to these things. But this is the problem that this is why he can say this in the last days, perilous times shall come, because they're going to be magnified. They're going to be exponentially grow. And if we did not have, and no wonder, look at the situation, if we did not have social media, would anybody want to be a dog? Would anybody care to be another gender? Probably not, because it wouldn't give them any satisfaction. Now, it's strange when we began to think like this, but I'm challenging this class, maybe this generation, or there's probably 2 or 3 generations in here, but I'm challenging us as individuals to grow up and to realize this is the day we live in. This is the symptoms that we are seeing, but the Word of God told us it's going to happen. So if you know it's happening, what should our response be? So here's the issue. After indoctrinating generations of kids, now I grew up in a little school. Anybody grew up in a school like what we call small, less than a couple hundred? Yeah, I grew up, I had 11 kids in my senior class until I got kicked out of school the last semester of my senior year. And then I had to go to a school of about 400 kids in my senior class, which was a eye-opening experience. But it was fun. I thought it was anyway. And so I had 11 kids in my senior class, public school. 285 kids, kindergarten through 12th grade, all in one campus. And my principal and sometimes the superintendent would stand there at the door when we walk in the morning, and he'd say, "Hey, boy, get your hair cut before you come back to school tomorrow." Different world. Different world. What's going on? Those people are scared. Those people can't do that anymore. They're afraid because lawsuits and humiliation, social media. We're at a time to where, and I know that this is absolutely, it's absolutely frightful. A pastor, an honest, true, good pastor can't stand up and preach and let it be seen by the world without it being picked apart, torn to shreds, and thrown on social media that something is wrong with us. Now, if you want to join that group, that's your business. It's not my suggestion. Are we men? Are we women? Yes, we are. I mean, that's just us. We're not walking on water, so to speak. We make mistakes. But I believe that the truth of the Word of God preached in an environment like this is what keeps society aligned with maybe not perfectly, but at least brought into alignment with the will of God, that we don't kill each other. And if you think it's not funny yet, wait until you get a little age on you and they do legalize euthanasia. Because you cost too much for you to breathe. You cost too much for, you driving, it's, oh my goodness. I'm like putting on my tinfoil hat and talking and everybody like, woohoo. Okay. After indoctrinating generations of kids, what they said was there is no God. The Bible is not true. There is no absolute authority, except you, of course. You are the only absolute authority. God doesn't care how you act. God doesn't care how you dress. God doesn't care how you there's no God, and if he was a God, he wouldn't care what you did. Well, that means that anything goes. Does it not? That means that if there is no God and he don't care, if there was one, I'm trying to get all this right in my own mind. If there is no God and if there was one, he didn't care, then how you act doesn't matter. And that is exactly where we are at today. After about 3 or 4 generations of that indoctrination. And we wonder why in the world. I call everybody like that idiots. Just the easiest word I can. I'm like, what an idiot. But the problem, okay, so, and I'm not your typical teacher preacher, if you don't mind me saying that. But the problem is, whereas I prayed earlier, God used me, and I felt that, and maybe it was God, but I am using you. You're a tool. You're a tool. You're a wrench or a pair of pliers, or in my case, it's probably a multi-tool. I have no clue what I'm going to do one day and the next one. I'm just like, okay, I'll do that, whatever. I'm a multi-tool. But unfortunately, if we're not wanting to be a tool in God's hands where he can use us, then whose tool are you? Who's using you? Well, I don't want to go to, and okay, I'm sorry. I know we have guests, and I don't know what all your life is and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to go to church. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. Well, you're going to be something. You're going to be used by somebody. It's like people, I don't want to pay tithes to the church. You're going to pay tithes somehow to somebody. Doctor, lawyer, alcohol, cigarettes, judge, somewhere anyway. Anyway, I'm sorry. Okay, so they've indoctrinated. Okay, so ultimately, we're now at a place where anything goes. And in a culture where anything goes, we have to allow for all beliefs. We have to, because there's no authority. And that's the era we live in. There is no authority. And now we have to allow for all beliefs. I took a political science class back 20 years ago. I'm not going to try to quote it, of course. I'm just going to give you the principle. Basically, they said that they know, surveys, typical surveys and things, that most people under the age of about 30 is liberal and progressive in their thinking. Under 30. Something starts happening about 30, though. And they began to become more conservative. And then, it doesn't matter which era of time, but they found that about 45 and above, almost everybody's conservative. What happened? Well, there's a lot of things that happen. First of all, you get a little older, which is, uncontrollable, but you also become a little bit more wise. Right. And you began to realize that some things matter that didn't matter when you was young. That's why we used to say I'm 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Well, you're not now. You're 45 and 4'3". That would be me. I'm sorry. I'm 54 and 5'8" and 3/16, but not counting. But now there's no absolutes, and they're gone. Morality is gone. And yesterday, my wife and I were, and this actually was it was a kind of serendipitous, where it was I had this on my mind, getting ready to teach it. And then this conversation come in. I want to say, and I meant to ask her this morning, I forgot to. I think we listened to a podcast or video, whatever. Somebody, I don't know. We're always listening to something, except for each other. I'm kidding. We're always talking. And I want you. This is something you adults need to know, because you don't know this. Most people don't know this. The conversation turned to a person that was. It was. I wrote it down. Technological ethicist. A technological ethicist. Executive position. And so, and most people would say, what's that mean? What is a technological ethicist? That is the people that companies hire that are supposed to keep the company ethical. But what happens when I'm going to repeat myself from a few months ago, we are in the age of redefinition. This is, welcome to the new world. We redefine everything. We redefine medicine. What does medicine mean? Well, it means what it used to mean, or you want to know what it now means? What's a boy? What's a girl? What is love? What is marriage? So in an age of redefinition, and after 3 or 4 generations, and I'll say 3 or 4, the reason why and I want you to think through this, the reason why I said 3 or 4 is because prior to about 1900, there wasn't really a public school system the way it is now. Every man and woman that had children raised their own and educated their own, even when they went to a public school. And it really, I know it sounds crazy, it was a community school prior to that point. And that teacher answered to the community families face to face. And that's the reason why small government is good. Small government is good. I have yet to meet any of my state senators, state representatives, U.S. federal senators, representatives yet, and they're supposed to represent me. Do they care about my opinion? Do they know my opinion? I vote hoping. Well, in those days, they hired a community teacher to teach their kids, and they answered to the parents. So after 3 or 4 generations of public school indoctrinating children, now there's no morals, and we don't even know what ethics are. Because I took those classes too. When you go to the ethics class, they don't say this is what ethics are. They don't tell you. Of course, old school way of ethics is we treat it. It's the golden rule: do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Right? But no more. Now it's, what do you think ethics is? Is AI ethical? Is pedophilia ethical? Is us promoting it ethical? Is pornography ethical? Well, it just depends. And almost everybody in this room thinks that in one way or another, because we are a product of 3 or 4 generations of indoctrinating us that God and the rule of law and the rule of God doesn't matter. And so we are at a point to where everything has to be either, and unfortunately, and I know I'm making you think, which is really good. I want you to, if it's legal, it's got to be okay. But now we've got a lot of legal things that are not okay. Y'all with me now? And we as adults have to grow up. It's time that we get out of sillyhood and grow up into adulthood and say, wait a second. And this is important for some. I'm not even on my notes, but let me throw all this out there. I like public school. Y'all, somebody, you know what? I'm not going to make some people happy, but that's okay. I like public school. I think the socialization and the integration into society and the everything in the world, you know. I mean, you're supposed to socialize a dog, you know. Why not socialize your kids? Let them get out and do something. Let them get. It used to, you know. You ever seen those videos where you have a? I'm getting way too deep in this. See these kids that never seen anybody with a beard, And when they do, they're like 3 years old. And the first time they seen somebody with a beard, they're like, "Ah!" You know. I grew up in a very country school, like I said. And there was, I think we got our first Hispanic guy, like I was like in 5th grade or 6th grade. Woden, Texas. Never heard of that before, have you? You know. Then later on, we got a black student. And everybody's like, I like socialization. It's good. It's healthy. It's good for us to. I love culture. I love culture. I love going to car shows and seeing the boom, chicka, boom, chicka, boom, 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 and the cars jacking up and down and bouncing. And I love that stuff. I know it sounds kind of, but I think we should. I think we need to appreciate cultures. We need to appreciate other people and other situations and other countries. And I got a video. Oh, I wished I'd have loaded it this morning. I got a video from Madagascar this morning and a couple of pictures from Kenya. Oh, so beautiful. But I love that stuff. But something about our schools is not right. Because there's no authority. The teachers aren't even the authority anymore. So if we're ignorant, I will bring this out. I forgot my watch this morning, so that's the reason why I had this up here. Okay, so if we're ignorant of what's going on, and many of us are in this room, and I'm not trying to scare you. You shouldn't be scared. These are just symptoms of the age and the time and the place that we live. This is symptoms of what's been going on for a long time. It's just really starting to show. It's kind of like you had, I don't know, some sort of pox, and it's just now starting to show. You've had it for a week, and all of a sudden, you know, you've had these symptoms going on in your body for a while, and you didn't know what it was, and now it's starting to be revealed. It's the same thing. What we have to be very careful of is, are we going to allow that, or I will just say allow. I'm not going to say embrace. Well, the next step after allow is embrace. So you tell me, do you want your generation after you to embrace what's coming? And if you don't, you as adults better, and I'm not saying, I'm just saying it's your choice, but if you don't want your next generation to be worser, then you better take a stand today. Here is a problem that we all have. We'd rather be ignorant and not take a stand than to take a stand and suffer. We'd rather have a normalcy bias. This is the way we've always done it. This is the way we're always going to do it. Just, that kind of thing. We'd rather have that normalcy bias than to realize things aren't right in our world. Okay? We'd rather have that. So, technological ethicist, I'm going to use this as an example. There's a few that you need to be aware of. Medical ethicist is another one. Yeah. I don't like to talk about some of these things because I know it's individually hitting some of us. And I'm not trying to hit us. I'm trying to help us. But we must be aware that there are people that write prescriptions for us based on their ethics. And it's not good. There's people out there that advertise a product that is legal that is not good. Come on. And we are, and I'm telling you, we are at a point to where 6 months to a year, this is going to blow up. Yes, it is. It's going to blow up. We're just starting to see the opening up of AI. And you're going to get to the point, in fact, I'm going to say since January, I don't know exactly when, but there has been, I know of 3 for sure, where national leaders talked on video conference to someone. And actually 2 of them was telephone conference and 2 of them was video conference. So, and they thought they were talking to somebody and the whole time it was a machine. Is that ethical? We're going to get to the point to where we're not going to trust anybody until we see them face to face, and we say, "Now, is that you?" Ouch! You know, that's where we're going. That's where we're going. We're going to where, and I know I'm scaring some of you. I'm probably not scaring you. I'm probably thinking you're probably thinking that I'm weird. But we're going to a place, and I'm not wrong. I might be early. I am a little early usually, but I'm not wrong. We're going to a place to where AI will replace a lot of jobs. A lot of jobs. There's estimates out there where 80% of our jobs will be lost to AI. What are we going to do? What are you going to do? Do we receive their... And this is stuff that I don't have all the answers. And I don't need to get off the camera. But I don't have all the answers, but I have a whole lot of ideas. I'm saying this because will you, and you've got to think of and this is where adulthood comes in. If I do this, how will it affect me and my generation or my kids and how's it going to change? How's it going to affect? So think with me. This is stuff you need to think about. If I lose my job, I'm going to have some income. So I'm going to take their money. I'm going to take their digital money. And it's going to go into my account. And they're going to tell me how to live. And if I don't agree with it, they're going to start cutting me off.
That's right.
Like I said, I don't have all the answers. But these things are coming. These things, this is what we see coming. And we've got to remember these things. So technical ethicist. Again, age of redefinition. So the salespeople, the people that sell products, they are honestly, just take it for granted that they're antichrist. Just go ahead and have that in your mind. Oh, these people don't love the Lord. They don't believe the Word of God. They don't believe God's coming back to judge us. They don't believe that we're going to get raptured. They don't believe that we're living in end time. They believe that everything's going to get better and better and better because of technology.
Yeah, right.
That's what they think, by the way.
Right.
And so we have to think, wait a second. And this is the choice that you have. Do you believe this or not?
Amen.
If you believe this, if you truly believe it and you're sold out to it, then are you going to live by it no matter what happens?
Right.
These are challenging times for this generation because what we do with this is going to determine the next generation if they have that opportunity, and of course our world. Political ethicists, it's unfortunate they don't exist. They want to redefine all these things. So I remember, do you remember when Clinton, and I think it was 1998, he said, I did not have sex with that girl. And then he said, well, they said, what is sex? What was he doing? Redefining. So the technological ethicists are redefining what is ethical to give to society. And so here we are, and I've got to close. I've got to stop. In fact, I've got 3 minutes, so I'll read this in 3 minutes. Woe unto them that call evil good, and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. Oh, dear God, I wish I could get this. Oh, I wish you could just realize, don't look, do this. I'm just telling you, do this. Sleep on it if you have to. Something. Listen to it instead of... Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes. Prudent. You ever seen these adults? I know my wife doesn't like it when I don't finish sentences. You ever seen these adults that I'm the mother around here? Well, duh. Act like it. I'm just kidding. I know what I'm talking about. Wise in their own eyes and prudent in their own sight. Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine, and men of strength to mingle strong drink, which justify the wicked for reward. They justify the wicked for reward, and take away the righteousness of the righteous from him. Therefore, as the fire devoureth the stubble, and the flame consumeth the chaff, so their root shall be as rottenness. Their root and their blossom shall go up as dust, because they have cast away the law of the Lord of hosts, and despised the word of the Holy One of Israel. So we are in a crucible right now. And I'm going to close with Revelation chapter 3, and I do have a motive here. We are in a crucible. We're being tested. I know that some of you don't recognize that because you go through the motions, and I don't blame you. You get up, you go to work, you come home, you go, on and on and on. I understand that. But the things that are in our life expose us. The things that we embrace expose us. And so the crucible, it's melting things. And we have two options. We can continue to stir in the impurities and just kind of dilute it into our lives like we've been doing. Or we can say, wait a second, I got to get some of this stuff out of here. Some things got to be removed out of my life. I can't tolerate this. I can't keep allowing that to be a controlling factor in my mind. So I believe that we are very possibly, I don't have all the answers. I know the answer, but I don't have all the little answers. I believe that we are in that seventh age or that seventh church in Revelation chapter 3. I'm hurrying. Revelation 2 and 3 talks about the seven churches. And many people, and I'm kind of on the border, but I'm one of them that thinks that church is an era, is a time, if you will. I see arguments both ways that, that's just an individual church in that area historically, but it's in the book of Revelation. There's a lot of things going on there, and I believe, depth of my heart is that's our day. What does it say about our day? Let me tell you this, and I'll just tell you up front before I read it. It doesn't say anything good. Now, we're part of it. It doesn't mean that we're bad people. It doesn't mean that we're wrong. It means that our generation, our church age, let me read it. And unto the angel of the church of the Laodiceans write, these things saith the Lord, saith the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of God. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would that thou wert cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm, and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. Because thou sayest, I am rich. Oh, we got stuff. I'm increased with goods. We measure ourselves by our goods. We look at everybody in this church. If you're a guest here, we looked at your shoes before you. I'm kidding. But that's how we measure. What car did you drive up in? Because thou sayest, I am rich and increased with goods and have need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked, I counsel thee to buy of me gold tried in the fire, that thou mayest be rich, and white raiment, that thou mayest be clothed. The shame of thy nakedness do not appear, and anoint thine eyes with eye salve, that thou mayest see. Y'all don't read it later. I got to stop. We've got stuff. We've got stuff, and we measure ourselves by that stuff, and that stuff has not been a good measure of who we are. And now it's time to change. And we're the adults. We're adults. We're the adults. We get to change. And we get to change our next generation. I got a good lesson. You're not going to want to miss this next one because it's a lesson. But wow. Let's stand. I'll stop with that, leave you with a whole lot of questions and only one answer. Jesus. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it more than you love Facebook, more than you love your car, more than you love your food. Love it. Amen. Lord, we pray that you would help us today.